Wouldn't it be really cool if just once in a while the best stuff turned out to be the cheapest as well? Well, guys, I'm about to make that dream come true for you. This is Barry with Barry's 8-Track and Classic Car Radio Repair, and this is not going to be a demonstration of a customer's completed unit. This is going to be some observations I've made over the decades that I've worked in electronics, and you're going to think I'm nuts when I bring this up. So first, I better throw out a few morsels to lend myself some credibility. My last day job, which I left about 5 years and 2 months ago, was at Cobham Aerospace Communications in Prescott, Arizona. And what I did there was every day I repaired equipment for Lockheed, Grumman, U.S. Army and Navy and Coast Guard, Thales, Eurocopter, Boeing, virtually every major airline manufacturer you can probably think of, I've done work for them, and including a few jobs for NASA once in a while. In fact, the big joke was I worked on an RMU, that's a radio management unit. It's a little CRT-based central control unit for all the Series 3 equipment that the company was putting out at the time, and the piece of equipment I repaired was for one of the space shuttles. And the big joke of the day was, well, since it's a CRT-based unit, there's a deflection yoke that goes around the CRT or the picture tube, whatever you want to call it. I still call it a picture tube because I was working on TVs when I was 13 years old, and the word CRT wasn't even around back then. It was a picture tube. It's the same thing. And the big, you have to adjust the yoke, the deflection yoke, to get the picture, straight up and down, so that it's not tilted and all that. And the big joke of the day was when I was working on that particular unit was that the shuttle was going to fly by, and they could look in there and see that I had misadjusted the yoke and the picture was tilted. Big joke, guys. Thanks a lot. But anyway, I really just absolutely loved that job. They treated me with tons of respect there. They pretty much let me do what I want. Anytime I wanted to go out and take a smoke, it was like an every 15-minute deal. I'd step out and take a smoke. Everybody knew I was doing it. They didn't really say anything because I was one of the top producers. Almost every single month, I was putting out the top number of repaired units, all within a less than 1% warranty return rate. I've got my performance reviews. Most of them are right on my website from that company, and you can see, what I did there, and how many units I fixed compared to the warranty returns and all that cool stuff. So, only reason I'm saying that is because you're going to think I'm nuts when I come up with this, and just one more little measure of my credibility is I still get my monthly copy of the Avionics News to my home address. We'll get a little close-up of that. You can see that this is the August 2017 issue, and it's addressed to Barry Phone, Chelton Avionics, which was one of the names they went by during the time I was there, and come to my home address. Not really sure how that happened, but I still get my copy. Now that you've hopefully believed that I've been in a pretty high-end electronic repair environment, besides this one, of course. In fact, most of my test equipment was stuff that I used at that job, and I wanted it for myself because it worked so well and was so reliable. Then I'm going to broach the subject now of which contact cleaner is the best and which is the cheapest. They happen to be the same one. You're not going to believe this, but okay, right here I've got a can of a CRC electronic contact cleaner. I think that came out of Ace Hardware. Naturally in the avionics field, we're working under strict FAA jurisdiction, and we had to have everything just to the T, to the letter. We had the best of everything to work with. Even solder at that place had an expiration date. I had never before heard of solder having to be thrown out after 2 years because it reached its expiration date. But anyway, solder is good for decades and decades. So I ended up with a lot of free solder, probably a couple $100 worth of free solder, if not more than that, because it was the absolute top of the line stuff. But now the deal with the contact cleaner is, okay, here we have a can of CRC. I also had access to Blue Showers, which is a very popular high-end type of contact cleaner. Deoxit, very popular contact cleaner. Now, what do I consider the best contact cleaner? Well, you're going to be shocked. Good old WD-40. Okay, now you're going to wonder, how in the world can WD-40 be the best contact cleaner? Okay, I'm gonna tell you why, and I'm going to show you why. First, I'll go a little bit into the history of WD-40. When it first came out, it had carbon tetrachloride in it. That was the main ingredient, was carbon tetrachloride, and carbon tetrachloride's main properties is absorbing or displacing moisture, water. If you had a soaked rug, you could spray some carbon tet on it, and it would dry much faster because carbon tetrachloride absorbs and displaces moisture. So, since that was its purpose, as well as being a lubricant, the name WD-40 stands for water displacement, and the number 40 is simply the 40th formula they tried, and that one was the best one for them. So now it's WD-40, and that's how it's always been. And it no longer contains carbon tetrachloride because it's extremely toxic. It can kill you if you breathe in too much of it. It's very bad for a human body and for the environment. So now the only ingredient in WD-40, the active ingredient, is basically fish oil. Okay, so I mean it does the exact same thing. Oil displaces water and moisture, just not quite as much as carbon tet does, but you'd know that oil certainly displaces moisture. If rain's falling down, on the highway where all the oil has dripped in the center lane from all the cars, the raindrop is going to form into little beads, pretty far away from each other, whereas every place else it's kind of like a little puddle. So. It's still, oil definitely displaces moisture. There's no question about it. Now, why do I consider WD-40 the best contact cleaner? Well, for one simple reason. Almost all your high-end cleaners, so let's see if we can zoom in on this on the other camera, almost all of your so-called high-end cleaners, they brag that it leaves no residue. Leaves no residue. Now let's talk about leaving no residue for a moment here. Okay, for a contact cleaner, what you want to clean it and you want to lubricate it, and that's how you keep a contact. That's how you keep the contacts in a switch or a control. Maintaining a good connection all the time is it's clean and it's lubricated. Okay, now that can be very closely likened to a form of detergent oil. Okay, now, do you want to use a detergent oil in your car that's going to evaporate and leave nothing behind? I didn't think so. I wouldn't do it either. So this thing of leaving no residue is ridiculous because, all this deoxit stuff and blue showers and this QRC electronic contact cleaner, sure, it works at the moment, but then 2 months later, the control is noisy again. I've sent out units from 12 years ago using WD-40, and I have not had one single comment about a volume control becoming scratchy since then. This stuff just simply works better, only because it stays there longer. You could probably spray. You could probably spray water into a control and wipe it back and forth a few times, and it'll clean itself just because of that. But then water evaporates, leaving nothing behind to remain as a detergent and a lubricant. So that control is also going to be, scratchy again in a short time. But basically, all of your high-end contact cleaners that brag about leaving no residue. Okay, let's see the result of that. Okay. And this is going to take a little while, but believe me, it's worth the time. We're going to back off a little bit here, and I'm going to spray a little bit of this QRC, so-called high-end contact cleaner. This is just a regular manila file folder. I'm just going to spray a little bit on there, just like that. You can see the moisture, and now I'm going to spray some WD-40 right next to it. Okay, and naturally, and you can see right off the bat that WD-40 is more liquid, and it's going to be runny, of course. So now let's just let this folder. In fact, I'll put a little heat on it. Now you know what? It'll dry fast enough. We're just gonna watch these two. This is the high-end contact cleaner. This is WD-40, and as you can see, that high-end contact cleaner is almost completely invisible now. Already, it's just been a couple minutes, and now it is basically. You can't see it at all anymore. Look at the WD-40. It's staying there. It's staying moist. It's soaking into the paper. And this is a little spray I did on WD-40 about about 20 minutes to a half hour ago, and as you can see, it's still doing its job. It's still moist, it's still oily, and it's still doing its job. Whereas this high-end contact cleaner has already evaporated whatever it did to the control to make it work better. It did it then, and it's no longer doing it because it's not there anymore. You can't see it. It's gone. It hasn't even soaked into the paper. Whereas this WD-40, is always going to be there. That this paper is most likely always going to have this oil stain, and that is because WD-40 has good penetrating action. It's an oil. Even if it's just fish oil, it's an oil. It's a lubricant, and it's going to last a heck of a lot longer than your high-end cleaners. You can pay anywhere from 10 to $15 a can for your high-end deoxid and all this stuff. And I hear all these guitar players on the electronic forums goes, the pod in my volume pedal got scratchy. Well, a volume control gets a heck of a workout because all night long you're moving that volume pedal, and I use a volume pedal myself. I don't even have controls on my guitars. I just do everything with my foot because I got kind of a wild right hand, and I don't like controls in the way. I'm always smacking them and changing switch positions. So the only thing I do use is a volume pedal for volume control with my guitar on stage, and volume pedal gets a heck of a workout. And so I've had guys, you go in these forums and you read about guys, I sprayed my Ernie Ball pedal with deoxid, and a week later it was noisy again, so I had to replace the pot. No, you just use the wrong stuff, man. Volume controls, with very few exceptions. Now, this doesn't apply to wire wound faders. This applies simply to the old-fashioned carbon wafer type volume and tone controls. They last decades and decades. You very seldom see a bad volume control coming through the shop on radios that were made in the 1950s. The only times that they're bad is if the customer packed them carelessly and they cracked the wafer, rendering the control useless, and you got to try to rebuild it. But volume controls, yeah, they come in really scratchy, and you hit them with some WD-40 and they go out perfectly silent, and they stay that way for years and years. So that was just a quick little spiel. I probably should have been smoking a cigarette on camera because I'm in a little bit of a rebellious state, simply because I don't like the way that companies sell these high-end contact cleaners, and they're supposed to be so great, and basically they're one of their biggest selling points is leaves no residue, which to me translates to loses its effectiveness after a few minutes. WD-40, if you're looking for contact cleaner, WD-40 is the stuff to get. It's going to last a heck of a lot longer. Doesn't smell all that great. Some of the contact cleaners do smell really nice, and that's one of the things. In fact, our Radio Shack, the Radio Shack's contact cleaner, I can remember it from when I was 13, running around the neighborhood fixing TVs that had the old-fashioned click, click, click type tuners, and the contacts in them would get dirty, and you'd clean them and you'd spray them with that Radio Shack contact cleaner, and they'd be fine again. WD-40 would have lasted longer, and this is just result of my decades of experience in electronics since 1973. Let's see, what am I, 58 now? So what, 40-something years that I've been into electronics almost on an everyday basis. And so I've had plenty of chance to see what works and what doesn't, what stands the test of time and what doesn't. So if you ever have a problem with a control after you've used something like deoxid or blue showers on it, or even some of the other QD electronic cleaners, it's because they evaporate almost as soon as you put them on, and that's their big selling point. Is once you spray it on, you better wipe that thing back and forth a bunch of times now, because this stuff's going to be gone, leaving no residue. Well, what in the world harm is residue going to do inside of a volume control? And if deoxid stands for it removes oxygen, what's the point in that? It's going to evaporate, and the protective coating's gone, and the control is exposed to oxygen all its life. Every second of every day, it's exposed to oxygen. So it's kind of ridiculous to worry about oxidation on a control or a switch. As far as using a cleaner to remove it, it's just not going to be nearly as effective as good old WD-40. Probably $2-3 a can, and a big old can will last you a long time. It's got its little built-in spray thing, so you don't lose it. And it's all I use for the last since 1974. That's all I've used for cleaning contacts. I've had excellent results with it. I've got the background to know what I'm doing and to have enough experience with it. So that's my take on contact cleaners. I just wanted to share that with you guys. Don't go out and spend 10, 20 bucks on this super high-end contact cleaner. WD-40 is going to work better, and it's going to last a heck of a lot longer. This is Barry with Barry's 8-Track and Classic Car Radio Repair. Needless to say, if you have an 8-track unit, either for home or for car use in need of service, you can reach me at 928-533-9666. I also do conversions on classic car AM radios, add FM, Bluetooth, USB, aux inputs, and on some radios I can even double the number of FM station presets if it's a Delco radio. So please visit my website below. If you like, subscribe. I have never asked for subscribers, and then I wake up one morning and I've got 75 subscribers, so that was really cool. So now I'll, sure, if you want to subscribe, I'll be continuously putting out videos for quite some time. I may start slowing down after the 200 mark. Right now I'm at 158, I think. I think this is video number 158. And so, but I'll still be making these from time to time. I don't want to waste this big old video setup that I've assembled for it. So keep in touch. My website is in the description below. Thank you very much for watching and listening, and we'll see you next time I got something else to complain about.